Then there were the two kind of concluding speeches, and they were both great. And these are both figures who are going to be very important to the future of the Republican Party. One is former ambassador to the UN and my spirit animal, Nikki Haley, and the other was Senator Tim Scott. Both of them gave, I thought, excellent speeches last night. The media have been trying to pretend that these were sort of outliers, right? The media's goal here is to pretend that the Republican Party is all of Trump's worst excesses, that it is not, in fact, comprised of candidates like Nikki Haley and Tim Scott. And so what they attempted to do is say, well, they're out of step with sort of the Trumpian base. No, they're really, really not. I mean, both of these figures are very popular inside the Republican Party. So Nikki Haley pointed out correctly that Joe Biden has basically taken the strategy of blaming America first for all problems in the world. This is absolutely true. Here is the former governor of South Carolina, former UN ambassador under President Trump, and a person with a great personal story, by the way. I mean, both Tim Scott and Nikki Haley are people who appreciate America because of their background, right? Nikki Haley is the daughter of two Indian immigrants and would never be treated, by the way, with the same sort of kid gloves that the media have treated Kamala Harris, who's the daughter of a Jamaican immigrant and an Indian immigrant. Here's Nikki Haley talking about Joe Biden blaming America first.
I'll start with a little story. It's about an American ambassador to the United Nations. That ambassador said, and I quote, "Democrats always blame America first." The year was 1984. The president was Ronald Reagan. And Ambassador Jeane Kirkpatrick's words are just as true today. Joe Biden and the Democrats are still blaming America first.
And that is exactly right. Now, Nikki Haley got ripped up and down by the media last night. Why? Well, number one, because she was good, but mostly because she pointed out that America is not a racist country. She said, yes, there are racists here. Some people do racist things. I've been hit by those people, but America is not a racist country. Now, this is such an important distinction, okay? I have been personally targeted by anti-Semites for a lot of my career. In 2016, I was named the #1 target of online anti-Semitism, an enormous amount of it springing from the alt-right. But I've been hit by anti-Semitism from members of the left. I've been hit with all sorts of harassment, right? There are lots of nasty people online, and in real life, there are lots of nasty people. Is that America's fault? It is not America's fault. You can actually have experienced bad things in America and not blame the entire country that gives you freedom. And that was a point Nikki Haley made eloquently last night, and the media decided to completely ignore.
In much of the Democratic Party, it's now fashionable to say that America is racist. That is a lie. America is not a racist country. This is personal for me. I am the proud daughter of Indian immigrants. They came to America and settled in a small southern town. My father wore a turban. My mother wore a sari. I was a brown girl in a black and white world. We faced discrimination and hardship, but my parents never gave in to grievance and hate.
This is a great point, that you can criticize people in America. You can, if you spot racist incidents, you can fight them. You can fight racist obstacles. That doesn't mean the entire country is racist. It's such an important point. And the reason the Democrats hate Nikki Haley is because she has the credibility to say stuff like this. It's the same reason that they hate Senator Tim Scott. So Tim Scott spoke last night. He was excellent. And again, the media couldn't deal with it. So they just decided to treat Tim Scott as an outlier. Scott said the election is about the promise of America. This is exactly right. Here is the black senator from South Carolina, Republican.
While this election is between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, it is not solely about Donald Trump and Joe Biden. It's about the promise of America. It's about you and me, our challenges and heartbreaks, hopes and dreams. It's about how we respond when tackling critical issues like police reform, when Democrats called our work a token effort and walked out of the room during negotiations because they wanted the issue more than they wanted a solution.
Exactly right. Okay, here's Tim Scott making the point that I've been making for weeks here, that when it comes to racism, Democrats are more interested in labeling everyone they don't like racist and labeling the system racist so that you will give them power than they are in actually solving problems. And Tim Scott should know, since he's the one who proposed the police reform bill Democrats then filibustered. Scott also gave an inspiring message about the fact that this is an incredible country. He says, my family went from cotton to Congress in one lifetime. I know we're supposed to pretend that racial progress has not taken place. I know we're supposed to pretend like Isabel Wilkerson that we're still living in a caste system in the United States. We're supposed to pretend, like Ibram Kendi, that racism just went underground and reemerged as all of our soft systems of institutional power. It's a lie. Here is Tim Scott rebutting the lie.
My grandfather's 99th birthday would have been tomorrow. Growing up, he had to cross the street if a white person was coming. He suffered the indignity of being forced out of school as a third grader to pick cotton, and he never learned to read or write. Yet, he lived long enough to see his grandson become the first African American to be elected to both the United States House and the United States Senate in the history of this country. Our family went from cotton to Congress in one lifetime. And that's why I believe the next American century can be better than the last.
Okay, isn't that a better message than the message being put forth by people like Kamala Harris, that America is systemically racist and that you're always behind the eight ball, or Michelle Obama, that there's a never-ending list of black people being victimized in the United States right now? Isn't that a more inspiring and a truer message? So Scott says Democrats basically want to fundamentally transform the country, the same country that has allowed for that sort of progress. Again, correct, Senator Scott.
Joe Biden's radical Democrats are trying to permanently transform what it means to be an American. Make no mistake. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris want a cultural revolution, a fundamentally different America. If we let them, they will turn our country into a socialist utopia. And history has taught us that path only leads to pain and misery, especially for hardworking people hoping to rise.
So the media's response to this was absolute abject horror that members of minority communities would dare speak as Republicans. My favorite version of this was George Stephanopoulos grilling Nikki Haley on racism. Because George Stephanopoulos, who is the whitest person in America, the Keebler elf, grilling Nikki Haley, the daughter of two Indian immigrants, on racism because George Stephanopoulos knows racism. I mean, that's a man who knows racism, obviously. Here he was suggesting that Nikki Haley is truly making room for racists because she's supporting President Trump.
I asked you what President Trump has done to heal that racial divide. And, you wrote that you were deeply disturbed by President Trump's comments after Charlottesville. Since then, he's tweeted out a video of his supporters chanting white power, praised the Confederate flag, which you called divisive in your speech last night. So I'll ask the question again. What specifically has President Trump done to address this systemic racism, the racial divide?
Well, I will tell you, first of all, President Trump has passed criminal justice reform, which Obama and Biden didn't do.
So my favorite thing from Democrats is when they question how President Trump has bridged the racial divide while Democrats are actively trying to widen the racial divide. Actively doing it. It doesn't make excuses for all the bad things Trump has said over the course of his career. But right now, if you're looking at people who are actively attempting to create racial divides in the country, the Democrats, members of the media, but I repeat myself, are doing exactly that. That's what you're watching happen ad nauseum in Wisconsin right now. You're watching it happen day by day in the media right now. And they cannot stand the fact that Republicans, actually, there's some minority Republicans who disagree with that Democratic agenda. Facts don't care about your feelings, and it's a fact that The Ben Shapiro Show is the largest conservative podcast in the nation. Be sure to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on all of our content.